Welcome, everyone. Will the audience please remain standing for the invocation to be offered by the Reverend Nancy Burton Delaplane. Reverend Delaplane is the rector at Grace Memorial Episcopal Church in Darlington, Maryland. Reverend Delaplane and her husband Steve are the parents of Rachel Delaplane, one of our student honorees recognized later today. Reverend Delaplane.
Let us take just a moment so that we can be fully present in this time and place. Source of life and truth, we ask your blessing as we begin another academic year on all schools, colleges, and universities, especially on Washington College. May it be a lively community of true learning, new discovery, and the pursuit of wisdom. Bless the lives and labors of all those who are part of this community. Students, alumni, families, faculty, administration, those who work to care for the buildings and grounds, those who work in financial and health and dining services, all who are part of this community. Lead us to truths that build up this good creation and to strengthen human relationships around the world. We ask this in the name of love. Amen.
Mr. Nordberg, Marshall Gillen, Dr. Walsh, Provost Emily Chamley Wright, Mrs. Culp, President Harrison, Reverend Delaplane, students, faculty, staff, and most of all, members of the Washington College class of 2018. Welcome. It gives me great pleasure to extend greetings to all of you as we formally open the new academic year. Each semester, we honor General Washington's tradition of service and leadership. Today, we celebrate service and leadership on our campus among our alumni, in our community, our nation, and our world. Today, we also salute those students who make our work so rewarding, our most academically successful students who have excelled in their own intellectual pursuits. One of those students is Senior Connor Harrison, President of the Student Government Association. Connor will deliver greetings on behalf of the students of Washington College.
Thank you, Interim President Griswold. Good afternoon. I would like to extend to the Board of Visitors and Governors, Washington College alumni, faculty, staff, students, parents, and those whom we honor today, a most heartfelt welcome on behalf of the student body. It is an exceptionally exciting time to be part of this community and a member of Goose Nation. Today, we ring in a new year, as we have done many times in the past, welcome our first-year students as they embark on their college careers, and honor several exceptional members of this community. However, differing from years past, our institution is undergoing more transformation than ever. Over the past year, we have welcomed several new members of staff and administration, the most diverse incoming class ever, said goodbye to President Reese, and welcomed back Interim President Mr. Jay Griswold to lead us throughout the next several months. It is no surprise Washington College has been around over 230 years. We can change, we can adapt, and we can transform, all while keeping many of the traditions we have held dearly for years and what makes us who we are at Washington College. In 1776, George Washington led a revolution to found the new nation. In 1782, Washington College was born, upholding many of the principles the new nation was founded upon. In 1799, George Washington passed away. Yet, in 2014, his name still lives on and leads an educational revolution in Chestertown, Maryland. I believe we are on the brink of a new era at Washington College. We as students can feel it. Members all throughout this community can feel it. There's a feeling a sense in the air, which differs from years past. This institution is not the same place I joined 3 years ago. Each year, we have grown closer as a community, strengthened academically, structurally, and culturally. We, as a student body, are excited for what is on the horizon and will continue to strive to better this campus each and every day we are here. In the coming year, we will open our minds and explore the many realms of academia, break free from our comfort zones, make new friends and long-lasting, meaningful relationships with various members of faculty, staff, and our fellow students. But before we can fully ring in a new year, we must recognize past accomplishments, the reason why many of you are here today. 32nd President of the United States and honorary alumnus of Washington College, Franklin Delano Roosevelt once said, "The only limit to the realization of tomorrow will be our doubts of today." Those whom we honor today have overcome their doubts, realized their potential, and continue to set examples for the Washington College community. For that, we thank them, and thank you all for coming here to support them today. We hope everyone is excited for a new year, new beginnings, and the continuation of our educational journey. 231 years have come before us, but let's make this one the best yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Connor. It's now my privilege to introduce the chair of our Board of Visitors and Governors, Edward Nordberg. Ed is the Chief Executive Officer of Wakefield Capital Management in Chevy Chase, Maryland, and an alumnus of Washington College, and he will deliver greetings from the board. Chairman Nordberg.
Greetings. On behalf of the Board of Visitors and Governors, it is my pleasure to welcome you to Washington College, a wonderful place that I've followed with great interest over the years. January 1st may mark the new year on the calendar, but for me, this is the month of fresh starts. It's my favorite time of year. The mornings are a bit chillier, and the afternoon skies are bluer. As the academic year gets underway, there's a real sense of excitement and enthusiasm and optimism about the months ahead. As Connor noted, and by the way, I always hate following the student presidents up here because they do such a better job than the board ever does. Washington College has plenty of reasons to celebrate. The arrival of the class of 2018 coincides with the first day of work for our interim president, Jay Griswold. The board is thrilled at the prospect of partnering with this seasoned fundraiser to ensure the college's sound financial future. James Rice, a historian of early America, joins our community as the Patrick Henry Writing Fellow. He kicks off his fellowship next week with a talk on the Powhatan chieftain and other Native American nations of the Chesapeake Bay region. An alumnus, Vico Van Voss, a local artist well known for his extraordinary wood sculptures and furniture, is exhibiting several pieces of his work in the Cole Gallery, opening next week. This is just a taste of the wonderful things to come in the weeks and months ahead. Before I close today, I would like to formally welcome my good friend and colleague Jay Griswold as president of Washington College. Jay's appointment received the unanimous support of the board, and we are very fortunate to have him here this year. We will all benefit from his leadership. So in closing, welcome to the class of 2018. I hope you take full advantage of everything Washington College has to offer, and best wishes for an exciting year.
Thank you, Ed. And as it's been mentioned, I'm the interim president of this historic institution. And maybe you all are certain of what this means. I'm not too sure what it means. Anyhow, I seem to always be talking about money, which is not a popular subject, but I speak for generations of donors dating back to George Washington, who have invested significant time, talent, and treasure into what they believe to be an essential investment in America's future. It's a legacy that our alumni, parents, and friends continue to embrace through their support of the Washington Fund, which helps underwrite need and merit-based scholarships for our talented students. It is important for our first-year students, and indeed for all of our students, to know that no matter what you pay to attend Washington College, it does not cover the full cost of your educational experience. That difference is made up by the generosity of our donors. One day you will be asked to help support future generations of students like yourselves, and I hope you will answer the call. At this time, we now recognize a fundraising initiative that was started by former President, up until yesterday, Mitchell Reese, 4 years ago, to help us enhance the educational experience for our students. As an added incentive, we asked each class to try to outshine the other classes in a little friendly competition. Today, I'm pleased to announce our winners. Look at all these trophies up here. Everybody's a winner. Recognizing those classes with the most generous alumni, measured in both the percentage of class participation and in overall dollars. I invite representatives from each class to join me on stage as I announce each trophy. Beginning with the trophies for the graduates of the last decade, for the highest participation rate among recent classes, the Golden Goose, who came up with that name? The Golden Goose Trophy goes to the class of 2011. Well, so now we have LaToya Gatewood Young, Meredith Young Grigg, and Catherine Greenlee now up on the stage. So congratulations. Uh-oh. Will the representatives of the class of 2011 please remain on the stage? Next it is my pleasure to present the Victory Bell Trophy for the largest gift to the college from a class that graduated in the last decade. This award is also presented to the class of 2011. I think you can leave now. I'm also proud to present the William Smith Trophy to the class of 1965 for achieving the highest participation rate at 66%. They have set the bar high for their 50th reunion this year. And John Conkling is here to accept the award on behalf of his class. John, please join us. And I also want to take a moment to thank you personally for that marvelous display of fireworks for the picnic. That was fabulous. Come on. There you go. John. Right to the top. We got this way. This way. Okay, now, there's so many trophies. Please join me in giving a huge round of applause for the class of 1982, represented here by Jeannie Merrick Maddox and Ed Nordberg. Yeah. Where's Jeannie? Here you come. They received the coveted George Washington Trophy for raising the largest total gift from a single alumni class prior to their 50th reunion, over $115,000. Finally, the next award we recognize today was created in sincere appreciation for the class beyond its 50th reunion that made the largest total gift to Washington College. The Chesapeake Cup goes again this year to the class of 1955 for their class's combined giving of $1,031,872, and Barbara Townsend Cromwell and Jane Sparks are here to accept the award on behalf of the class of 1955, so please come forward. Thanks to everyone for their generous contributions. And I see my newest friend down in the second row there, age 92, and he was the dean here from 1959 to 1966, is that right? And I've met so many people here that I can't remember your name. What's your name? Bob Kirkwood, thank you. And Bob, this is not on the script, but you told me at Ed Nordberg about an hour ago that you were turned down in 1962 for a Phi Beta Kappa chapter because the Washington College endowment was a grand $2 million in 1962, and they said it wasn't enough to get a chapter. And you said that's ridiculous, and I agree. So. At this time, I would like to introduce the chair of the Washington College Alumni Board, Heather Spurrier Culp, from the class of 2000, to present the Alumni Horizon Ribbon Award. There you are. Now, which one is this? Is that this?
It's right.
Oh, no, that's something else.
We'll get it. Good afternoon. Established and passed by the full Alumni Board on April 25th, 2009, the Alumni Horizon Ribbon was created as a means of formally identifying and recognizing recent alumni of the past 15 years. The award is given to an alumnus or an alumna who has demonstrated outstanding leadership, service, or scholarship in a particular area. This year, we are delighted to honor Michael Scazafava. Michael, will you please join me on the stage? As an environmental policy and government affairs officer with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, Michael, the class of 2002, has been a champion at the forefront of environmental advocacy, helping to defend wetlands, maintain a clean water supply, and protect the population from hazardous waste. Mike came to Washington College with an abiding interest in the outdoors and the biological sciences, and quickly realized that environmental protection was an ideal career choice for him. Through the college's Center for Environment and Society, he completed an internship at Eastern Neck National Wildlife Refuge, focusing on environmental monitoring and data collection. In 2001, he traveled to Kobe, Japan to participate in the Conference on the Environmental Management of Enclosed Coastal Seas. With that kind of real-world experience, Mike was a top candidate for University of Delaware's master's program in energy and environmental policy. As a research fellow there, he contributed to a number of peer-reviewed publications. After a summer internship with the EPA Regional Office in Philadelphia, he was tapped as a Presidential Management Fellow and assigned to the EPA headquarters in Washington. Among his many accomplishments, Mike has led and coordinated the review and evaluation of Clean Water Act implementation, the Wetland Monitoring and Assessment Program, the National Wetland Condition Assessment, and various other policies, programs, and regulations related to the National Water Program. Last fall, in affirmation of his proven leadership, Mike was appointed Chief of the Science Policy Branch in the Office of Superfund Remediation and Technology Innovation, the national lead for all science-related policy issues for the Superfund program. He now works to protect citizens from the dangers posed by abandoned and uncontrolled hazardous waste sites, to craft a federal response to hazardous substance emergencies, and to develop long-term solutions for the nation's most serious hazardous waste problems. In recognition of his expertise and his future promise in the field of environmental advocacy, Washington College is proud to present to Michael Scazafava, class of 2002, the Alumni Horizon Ribbon Award.
Thank you, Heather, and congratulations, Michael. We're very proud of your accomplishments. At this time, I would like to invite Professor Philip Walsh, President of the Theta of Maryland, Washington College's chapter of Phi Beta Kappa. Dr. Walsh will present the Phi Beta Kappa First Year Awards for Excellence in Liberal Learning. Dr. Walsh.
It is my privilege to be here today to represent the Theta of Maryland. Founded on December 5th, 1776, Phi Beta Kappa is the oldest and most prestigious honor society in the United States. For over 230 years, the society has been a leading advocate for the ideals of a liberal arts education. Our chapter initiates seniors during their spring semester. However, the awards presented today are given annually to high-achieving students in their second year of residency at Washington College. When I call your names, please join me on the stage, and audience, if you would hold your applause until the end. Holly Catherine Chisholm, Catherine Marie Grillo, Anna Elizabeth Insera, Erica Louise Kuntz, Sarah J. Kraus, Alexandra D. Kurtz, Kelsey F. McCurdy in absentia, Jason Paul Mercando, Jennifer Elise Miller, Madeline N. Morissette in absentia, Rebecca M. Sachs. Please give them a warm hand. Okay. Before I close this afternoon, I would like to recognize too Dr. Robert Kirkwood and his friend Helen Reed, who are here for Convocation. As President Griswold explained, Dr. Kirkwood was the academic dean of Washington College from 1959 to 1966, and over the past several years, he has given more than $50,000 to endow the Gerda Blumenthal Phi Beta Kappa Award, which is awarded in February. Dr. Kirkwood, can you please stand to be recognized?
Thank you, Dr. Walsh. Dr. Kirkwood, I apologize for forgetting your name. How could I do that? It is now my privilege to call upon the Provost and Dean of the College, Dr. Emily Chamley Wright, and she will present academic honors for the 2013-2014 academic year.
Thank you, Mr. Griswold. It gives me great pleasure to be here today to participate in the formal opening of the fall semester. The fall convocation has become one of my favorite ceremonies of the year. We celebrate the excellence that is imbued throughout the college, from the students who have seized with both hands the opportunities before them to the excellence in our faculty, and this is the two sides of the coin that make this place so special. Will the students please come forward when I call their names? The first-year scholarship medal, given annually to the student or students who attain the highest academic average during their first year. Holly Catherine Chisholm, Catherine Marie Grillo, Erica Louise Kuntz, Alexandra D. Kurtz, Jason Paul Mercando, Jennifer Elise Miller, and Madeline Nihan Morissette in absentia. The Alumni Medal, awarded to the member of the sophomore class who attains the highest academic average for the year. Anna Elizabeth Insera. And that was Anna Elizabeth Insera. No, Insera, I got it wrong twice. Anna Elizabeth Insera. The Visitors and Governors Medal, given annually to the junior who attains the highest academic average for the year. The winners are Sean Philip Kraus and Kendall Louise Rich. The Interfraternity Panhellenic Council Awards, held annually by the sorority and the fraternity achieving the highest scholastic average for the preceding year. The sorority is Zeta Tau Alpha. And do you do this separately? Yeah, okay. And the fraternity is Kappa Alpha Order. And they're apparently very athletic, too. He's racing down the stairs as we speak. He's coming. Give him another round of applause as he comes in the door. The Middendorf Scholars, given annually by the Middendorf Foundation to rising seniors for academic excellence and leadership qualities. This year's recipients are Melody Sophia Bishop, Rachel M. Dillaplane, Kevin T. Lair, Jacqueline Marie O'Connell, and Madeline Nicole Zins. The Middendorf Environmental Studies Scholar, given annually by the Middendorf Foundation to a rising senior for academic excellence and leadership qualities. Maddie, don't go too far. Madeline Nicole Zins.
Thank you, Emily. Congratulations to each of these students for their academic achievement. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce our faculty honoree. Professor William Schindler III is the 2014 recipient of the Alumni Association's Award for Distinguished Teaching. In years past, the honoree was recognized only at commencement. Last year, we started a new tradition of also recognizing the honoree at the fall convocation. Professor Schindler, would you please join me? Professor Bill Schindler takes the notion of hands-on learning to new heights. A prehistoric archaeologist devoted to testing theories about the way people once lived, Schindler involves his students in every aspect of his research, from stone tool making to food gathering and preservation. His students learn how to forage for food, how to skin and butcher deer, and how to build a boat using saplings and cowhide. They've worked for an iron forge, built an earth oven, and handcrafted their own spears. They've baked bread from ancient grains, made cheese and kombucha from locally sourced ingredients, and prepared meat jellies made with, quote, everything but the squeak, unquote. Hunting, gathering, preparing, preserving. When the zombie apocalypse strikes, Professor Schindler's students will undoubtedly be ready. But what's even more important is that through this kind of hands-on learning, students begin to understand how the natural and physical world intersects with complex social processes. Take last spring's coursework, for instance. In conjunction with the college's Center for Environment and Society and the C.V. Starr Center for the Study of the American Experience, Professor Schindler at the Department of Anthropology hosted a 4-part series called Recipes for Change. The series' ultimate goal was to encourage people to effect change in their minds, pantries, families, and schools that would make their choices about food better for the planet, the people, and themselves. Professor Schindler's students prepare dishes informed by the philosophies of each of the 4 speakers, and to conclude the series, took part in a school garden demonstration at Garnet Elementary School. This approach to engaged interdisciplinary learning, grounded in the community around us, is what distinguishes Washington College among our peers, and Bill Schindler is a master at it. He teaches as he lives, with exuberance, intellect, humor, and authenticity. And on this occasion, it is with great pleasure that we recognize Bill Schindler, the 2014 recipient of the Alumni Award for Distinguished Teaching.
Thank you. I'm very honored to receive this award, and to receive it amongst such talented faculty makes it even more special. Interim President Griswold, Provost Chamley Wright, Mr. Nordberg, Dr. Walsh, Ms. Culp, President Harrison, Reverend Delaplane, Dr. Gillen, students, faculty, staff, and family, welcome. It is truly an honor to stand here and address you today. A few weeks after commencement, I received a letter from President Reese acknowledging the Alumni Association's Distinguished Teaching Award and requesting my presence here at Convocation to deliver the keynote address. I immediately began to wonder what on earth I could talk about to such a diverse group and such an intelligent group. As I pondered this, I reread President Reese's letter, and my eyes paused on the section where he outlined the history of this Distinguished Teaching Award and wrote that it was first conferred in May of 1994. I immediately then knew what I would talk about. May 1994 is a very significant date to me. It is the month and year that I failed out of college. To make matters worse, this came on the heels of a semester in which I earned a 0.00 GPA. In fact, I literally failed every class that semester. The 20 years since that dark moment in my life has been a remarkable journey, one that has taught me many lessons and shaped, literally in every way, how I approach teaching and learning. And today I'd like to relay to you some of the highlights of that journey. I was recruited to wrestle at Ohio State and began my freshman year there in 1991. At that time, Ohio State's wrestling team was top 5 in the country. I was so excited to be part of such an amazing team. In fact, during my recruiting trip the year before, I stayed with one of the assistant coaches, later Olympian, Mark Coleman, who was busy training for the upcoming Pan Am Games. Yes, for those of you who are familiar with UFC or Ultimate Fighting, he is now Mark the Hammer Coleman. I saw how he trained and wanted to train just like that. I'd never seen anyone push themselves to the limit that he did. I vividly remember the day I returned so very pumped from the recruiting trip. I had been on numerous trips that year, but none like the one I experienced at Ohio State. I recalled all the details, or at least those appropriate for my parents, to my mother and father, and waited for their response. After I'd finished, the first words out of my father's mouth were, what did you think of the library? Well, I replied I was not brought to the library, but the wrestling room was amazing and the weight room was stocked with state-of-the-art training equipment. My father then asked me what I thought of the classes that I sat in on. I replied to him that I did not see any classes, but watched 2 wrestling practices and they were awesome. Yeah, my parents were skeptical and had every right to be, but I was convinced that this was the place for me. So as soon as I began my freshman year, the new members of the wrestling team were introduced or brought in front of our athletic academic advisor. See, we were assigned an academic advisor and an academic athletic advisor. The athletic academic advisor informed us that he would be taking care of all academic-related issues, and we were not to ever meet with our assigned academic advisors. I took his advice and never did. School went fine in the beginning. I was certainly focused on wrestling, but my grades were okay. They were okay. Mostly high B's and low A's, but then something devastating began to happen, and my eyesight slowly began to fail. My grades began to drop. As it became more difficult to see, I became less interested in school. Part of being an athlete at Ohio State meant that we had our own team doctor, and we had access to free eye care. Eye care in this case consisted of visits to the ophthalmology graduate students. Despite repeated visits, they had no idea what was wrong with me, and I spent the next few years with worsening eyesight and, of course, grades. Unbeknownst to me, I had a degenerative eye disease known as keratoconus. By my 3rd year, forget seeing the board, I couldn't even read a book if I was holding it in front of my face. My grades were dropping fast, and my academic advisor was very busy trying to keep me eligible. This was a monumental task that included me declaring new majors regularly. Wrestling, on the other hand, was still going well and was about the only thing that I had going for me. I redshirted my first year and then worked my way up to the varsity spot at 158 pounds by my 3rd year. My dream was coming true. Now I just had to stay eligible. Since wrestling is a winter sport, winter break consisted of a total of 3 days at home. So I was so focused on making this one bright light in my life brighter, that on one of those days, I took the train to the New York Athletic Club to practice with some of the international world-class wrestlers that train there regularly. That day, while training, I blew out my knee. I was done. I promptly returned to Ohio State, hobbled on crutches with my MRIs in hand to the coach who was waiting as the rest of the team loaded the bus bound for the dual meet at Michigan State, and he refused to acknowledge me. In fact, he didn't talk to me again for 2 months. My world was crashing down around me. I was going blind, and I was out for the season. I failed every class. In May of 1994, I was officially thrown out of school. The school informed me I was allowed to return after 1 year if I chose. I walked across the street, called my father from the payphone in front of Long's bookstore, and told him the news. I spent the next year of my life in Powell, Ohio, living and working on a 4,000-acre pig farm. My eyesight was failing, but the pig farm experience was certainly enough to push me to try school one more time. So after a year off, I re-enrolled in Ohio State. It was a complete disaster. 4 weeks into the new semester, this is the truth, I actually found out I had been attending the wrong class. Defeated, I withdrew and returned home to my parents. Graduating college was a long-lost hope now. In fact, to be completely honest, I don't think I ever truly believed I had the ability to ever graduate. So to make a very long story short, within a day of being home, my mother realized how bad my eyes actually were and made it her mission to find out what was wrong with me. At this point, I still had not been diagnosed. Thanks to her hard work, within a week, she found someone who could diagnose me, but this doctor couldn't help. He referred us to a specialist that could, and then I began a long road to improving my eyesight. At this point, I was legally blind, and the best I could achieve with correction was 2800 vision. A number of factors all came together to result in my failing out of school. However, an equally remarkable set of circumstances coalesced to help ensure my final success. Around the same time I began to correct my eyesight, I was contacted by several Division III coaches. They all recruited me out of high school, but then I was only focused on trying to wrestle for a Division I program. They heard I was back and knew I still had a year left of eligibility. I informed them that I would love to try college again, but my grades were horrible. Didn't they know that I actually failed out and dropped out of school? They all said they could get me in no matter what my grades were. Well, they didn't have as much pull as they thought, all except for the coach from the College of New Jersey. He was able to get me enrolled under the condition that I declared a physics major because that department needed more majors. This was great. I finally, this was great. Now I finally met with my first academic advisor ever. I was set to chart my course to graduation. However, as I sat in my new advisor's office, I was devastated when they informed me that because my grades were so bad and the courses I did pass didn't work towards any real degree, I was looking at another 4 full years of college. This was 1996. I started college in 1991, and I was looking at graduating in 2000. It was a long road, but I still decided to give it a shot, and I'm so glad I did. In fact, it was there that I met my wife, Christina. The next 4 years were not without struggle. In fact, partway through, when it seemed like graduation was still so very far away, I attempted to enroll in culinary school in New York City. An idea that was quickly squashed by my parents, who thought I had gone way too far to give up now. Eventually, I graduated in the spring of 2000, and before graduation, Christina and I actually had landed jobs teaching in nearby school districts. By the time I graduated, I had declared 7 different majors, and are you ready for this? Nutrition, math 3 separate times, forestry, engineering, twice physics, history and secondary education, and I spent at least 1 semester in each. I estimate that during the course of my undergraduate career, I took approximately 80 different classes. To put that in perspective, to graduate from Washington College, you need to take approximately 32. The story doesn't end there. Halfway through my first semester of teaching high school history, I realized I loved teaching, but I didn't want to teach high school nor history. Once I'd actually graduated, I realized I could do anything I could put my mind to, so I decided to go to graduate school. No one ever told me I could actually major in something I loved and make a career out of it. I was passionate about archaeology and primitive skills and found out that I could focus on something called experimental archaeology, and it all seemed perfect for me. I informed my wife and parents of my plans, and I can only imagine what they thought. Here I was, finally a college graduate after 10 years, finally landed a job, employed with a decent job, and I was about to give that up for something that truly seemed unattainable. Christina drew a circle on a map, a small circle, and said I could try, but we weren't leaving this radius and our families and everything we knew. I had to pick a school within that radius, and that left Rutgers and Temple. It was a small radius. So I went for a visit to Rutgers, right? And I left in tears. The professor I met with at Rutgers said that Rutgers would never take me, nor was I graduate school material, and I was lucky to have graduated college in the first place. So that left Temple. After several meetings with faculty in the Anthropology department, I was accepted into their PhD program. Shortly after beginning my graduate school, my eyesight troubles became so severe that I received 2 corneal transplants. I flourished in their program. Even though it took me 10 years to graduate with an undergraduate degree, I broke a departmental record for obtaining both a master's and a PhD in 4.5 years. So what did I learn from this experience, and how has it shaped me as a teacher? Well, the only way I was able to make it through was because of the support structure I had in my family. This support did not always come in the form of bailing me out. In fact, it rarely did. I can only imagine how difficult this journey was for my parents financially and emotionally. They never gave up on me, but also never made it too easy. If they had, I would not be here in front of you today. They let me fail when I had to and patiently waited as I picked myself up. However, when I faced an obstacle that was out of my control, such as my eyesight, they did everything they could to get me the help I needed. My wife was a constant source of support as well as a role model. Her academic success was something I always strove to emulate. She agreed to put our life on hold to allow me time to go to graduate school, even though it seemed like a crazy idea. My mother and father-in-law took us in when we both started graduate school because we had no source of income and nowhere to live. thank you all truly. What I would like to spend the remainder of my time talking about, however, is how these experiences have shaped me as a teacher. I first attempted to formulate my teaching philosophy very early after I started graduate school at Temple. In fact, I was given my own classroom the second semester of my first year in graduate school. I mean, I don't know what the anthropology professors at Temple were thinking. Not only did they accept me, but they had me adjunct teaching in my own classroom right away, and it was the best thing that could have ever happened. By this point, I'd had a lot of teachers, some terrible, some okay, and some excellent. In attempting to figure out how I would approach my own teaching, I asked myself, what was it that allowed me to flourish in some classes more than others despite my eyesight troubles? I couldn't really come up with a good answer. So then I turned the question on its head. If I could not readily formulate a good teaching philosophy from my experiences, perhaps I could try to understand how I learned best. In other words, I could develop a learning philosophy first, and then from there, develop a teaching philosophy. So I asked myself, how do I learn? What is it that I try to do when I find someone incredible and want to learn from them? What do I think about? My answer came quickly. When I see someone I want to learn from, someone amazing, I want to see what they see when they look at the world. For instance, I want to see what an archaeologist sees when they look at the landscape and imagine how, in their head, they envision the landscape forming and how people utilize it in the past. I want to see what a flint knapper or a stone tool technician sees when they look at a rock. I want to see what a potter sees when they look at a lump of clay. I want to see what a waterman sees when they look at the bay. I want the way in which they see the world to enhance and enrich, not replace, the way I already see it. And it's ironic that as I literally was going blind, I seemed to learn best from the people who taught me new ways to see. Okay, so I had the basis of this philosophy, but I still needed a way to implement it. Now I could look at effective teachers I had in the past for guidance. How did they make me see the world the way they did? Unfortunately, there were no clear-cut answers here. They all did it differently. However, the effective ones had two things in common. They all were passionate about what they did, and they all effectively contextualized what they were teaching. And I asked myself, how would I do this? How far should I go in creating context? How much is really needed? An experience during my first year at Washington College showed me that I should never take anything for granted, and sometimes it is, in fact, necessary to start at the very beginning. I had developed a GRW course for freshmen titled Food, People, and the Planet. In addition to teaching reading and writing and research skills, the students in this course were going to learn about the relationship between people, food, health, the environment, sustainability, and they were going to do this in a very unique way. At the beginning of the semester, each student was assigned a contemporary food theme, and they were to spend the semester researching, writing about, and presenting on their theme. But in addition, they also developed a 6-course meal that highlighted each of their themes, and over the course of the semester, they began preparation for this meal that ultimately was served at the president's house to 35 invited guests. By the time the meal was prepared, no 2 ingredients were put together by anyone but the students. I believe that this would allow them to more fully contextualize what they were learning about in the class. The importance of this type of project-based hands-on learning became apparent early in the semester, the first night I had students over to the house to cook. 6 students arrived and began preparation, and I was all set. I took the first 3 through the door to the counter in the kitchen that was covered with bowls and eggs and told them to begin cracking and separating the egg yolks from the egg whites. Meanwhile, I took the second set of students downstairs where they began grinding flour that was later used in making bread. I was gone for about 10 minutes before I returned upstairs. When I returned, nothing had been done. I looked around in dismay. No one moved. No one had cracked an egg. Nothing. They were just standing there. Bewildered, I asked them if the problem was that no one had ever shown them how to separate the yolk from the whites, and received only blank stares in return. After a minute of silence, one of the students said, "No one has ever shown us how to crack an egg." I was floored. How do you even make it to college not knowing how to crack an egg? On the surface, this might not seem like a big deal, nor that it may have any relation to the higher level thinking I was asking them to do in the classroom. But I think it has everything to do with that. How could I expect them to understand the relationship between people and the environment and health and sustainability, or the place of chicken houses in modern food systems, or the issues surrounding the fight for the backyard chickens in Kent County, if they don't understand the relationship between a people and an egg? This experience completely reinforced the need for me to not take anything for granted and to start at the very beginning whenever possible. Throughout the rest of the semester, not only did the students learn to crack eggs, but they butchered pigs, cured meat, made beer and cheese, fermented vegetables, and foraged for wild plants. This was all accomplished outside of and in addition to scheduled class time, and when the final meal was served, the students were prepared. The students became the servers, and in between each course, contextualized for the diners by individually presenting on their own theme-based research what they were eating, why they were eating it, how it was prepared, and why it was important. I've taken a very similar approach to all of my teaching, but it wasn't until last fall that I was finally able to put a label on this approach. It was during my experimental archaeology class last fall when I brought 2 Viking technology experts from Canada to my class to spend a week with us and help us building and using a Viking-era bloomery kiln to smelt iron from local bog iron. During this workshop, one of the Viking experts used the term sole authorship and used it in a way I'd never heard it used before. When I asked him the meaning, he replied that it's a term thrown around in their circles that mean engaging in a task entirely from the very beginning all the way to the end. I couldn't believe it. This is what I've always strove to do in my teaching and my own learning, and in my own teaching, and this is carried over into my learning and teaching as well. Sole authorship. I would like to finish with one example of how I recently incorporated this philosophy into my teaching. This summer, I taught a class I call Interpreting the Past, the Ethical, Political, and Economic Factors Influencing How Our History is Portrayed. This 3-week class exposed students to the many virtual time machines that exist, such as museums, experimental archaeology, open-air museums, reenactments, and gatherings that allow us to gain access to our past. During this course, students were immersed in the various ways the past is interpreted through public site visits, behind-the-scene tours, lectures, demonstrations, discussions, presentations by interpreters and reenactors, etc. The first 10 days of the course were based out of Washington College, where the students took advantage of the many opportunities that exist within close proximity of the school. Then we traveled to Denmark, a country with arguably the richest tradition of archaeology in the world, where students explored the topic more fully for several days. The highlight of the course were the last 5 days, during which time the students put everything they learned about historical interpretation to the test by becoming interpreters themselves at the world's premier open-air museum, Lyra. This year, the students, my family, and I inhabited a Stone Age village for 5 days and lived and interpreted Stone Age life to the public. Each of the students in this class made their own brain-tanned deerskin clothes for this experience entirely from scratch. I'm getting some blank stares. Do you know what I mean by buckskins or a loincloth? Some of you? Well, as I mentioned earlier, I learned a long time ago I should never take anything for granted, so I think we need to contextualize this with an example. I really need to take the sandals off. That doesn't match. Okay. Preparation for these clothes started 10 months before the class ran and really exemplifies this notion of sole authorship. Last October, students butchered and fleshed deer and used stone tools that they made themselves. Then, the students spent their spring break tanning the skins using prehistoric methods, requiring the use of nothing more than animal brains, water, and smoke, and the hardest manual labor many of them have ever engaged in. Then the students tailored their clothes using lacings of leather they cut from the skin and sinew, or the tendons from the deer that they extracted and processed. Once finished, the students literally lived in their clothes and relied upon them for 5 full days. Certainly this exercise made the entire experience more rewarding and authentic and served to bring the group together well before the class started, but it also did so much more. They learned firsthand how to make something out of nothing, how to make tools and use them, how to extract something useful from the environment, and what that actually means. In this case, it required the loss of an average of 4 lives to clothe each student, and these are deer lives, not human lives. They learn the anatomy of a deer and the qualities of the different parts of the skin. They learn the properties of brains, skin, sinew, and tools made out of bone, antler, wood, and stone. They learned how this type of tanning leaves no negative impact on the environment, in stark contrast to modern tanning methods that are extremely destructive. They learned the value of hard work. Nothing about the process was shielded from them, and as a result, they have a better understanding of the place of humans in the environment and what that truly means. They forged tools, used them, and made something useful that they relied upon for days to clothe them and shield them from the elements. They also can now better interpret the archaeological record and life in the past, yet it does even so much more. I believe they can actually apply these lessons to modern life and rely upon their experience to better understand important modern issues, such as resource extraction and sustainability. Students experiencing this sort of education are the ones that I want making important decisions about the future. They have the ability to see the consequences of their actions by having followed something entirely from the beginning to the end. I am thankful that I am here at Washington College because this is what we do here. Washington College supports new and innovative teaching. Washington College makes use of the amazing area within which we are located and believes that the classroom exists outside of these walls. The world is truly our classroom. We have innovative and life-changing programs such as the Chesapeake semester and the Southwest trip that expose students to the very education I spoke about today. We are continually creating new teaching and learning opportunities and spaces such as Chino Farms, the new academic building, and the waterfront. Everyone is blind in some way, and for me, it was real blindness. Our job as professors is to provide our students with the opportunity to see the world in new and unique ways. If we are passionate about what we do and provide the proper context in whatever way we choose, we have the power to provide our students with the opportunity to see the world through our eyes, to enhance their learning and make real change. And to the students, you made an excellent choice in Washington College. Take advantage of all the traditional and non-traditional learning opportunities we offer here. Explore them all and follow your dreams. Believe me, the 10 years I spent floundering trying to succeed following paths that other people thought I should pales in comparison to what I've been able to accomplish after I found out what I was truly passionate about. Now I truly love and live what I teach. Be prepared to open your eyes fully and see the world in brand new ways. We, the faculty at Washington College, have so much to share with you. Thank you.
Wow. Something else. Bill, thank you for your service to this wonderful institution. Today we've honored individuals who have set examples of accomplishment, integrity, and service to others, and who present role models for students to follow. Now, this is not on my script, but I think it calls for everybody to stand and give the entire faculty a huge round of applause. As we conclude this afternoon's convocation, I would like to invite the audience to join us for a reception in the Underwood lobby, where we'll have a chance to have some of Bill's fixings. No, but
So as you prepare to walk into this new year, may you be blessed with discomfort. The discomfort of easy answers, half-truths, and superficial relationships. And may you live with integrity deep in your hearts. May you be blessed with anger at injustice, oppression, and exploitation wherever you encounter it. And may what you study and what you work for lead ever in the direction of justice and peace and freedom. May you be blessed with tears for and with those who suffer from illness, from hunger, from poverty, from violence. And may everything that you choose to do this year ease some of the world's suffering. And finally, may you be blessed with enough foolishness in this world to do what others believe cannot be done. And the blessings of life and truth and light be yours this day and remain with you always. Amen.